a spiritual liberation from this world. People who rose above their problems. They said God made these things possible and we only smiled. We had seen spiritual release, but like to tell ourselves it wasn't true. I remember that, seeing all these people just leveled up and thinking they were kind of crazy. And how could that even actually be true? Because it's not experiential. Looking up, you can only intellectualize and judge. But these guys up here looking at me are going, you poor fucker. If only you knew what we experience. And what am I doing? I'm trying to fulfill things from broken that are in me from things outside of me. It doesn't work. So God fixes us. He knows where we're broken. And as we get the challenges and the difficulties of life, we learn how to get through them with His help. And what happens? We actually start healing. We start being able to figure this out with God's help through meditation, prayer, and service. And we become whole. And these fractured pieces of us, the selfish self-centeredness that constantly needs validation from outside, doesn't need it anymore. And I become okay. So God restores me to the sanity, restores me to being whole. What is this but a miracle of healing? Let's go furthermore. Like maybe you're sober. Maybe you're sober and you're like, holy fuck, is this all there is? Like, is this all that my recovery has to afford me? I got a better job. I got some things back. It seems like my life's better, like materially, but I still fight people. I'm still fucking at odds with people. I still am not getting along with people. My relationships actually leveling up? Am I actually attracting the type of people in my life that are fucking quality and we're fucking meshing? Or am I still running into old patterns like that? Where I'm like, okay, this is just life. This is just life. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But I'm young. I'm in school because I'm put there by my parents, and I'm ingrained. I'm indoctrinated with these systems, these beliefs, and not only about God. I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about jobs. I'm talking about ingrained ideas about money and about happiness and about life. So this is more than just God. I've been indoctrinated by society since the day I came out of the womb. And I had everyone else's ideas ingrained on me, and God was one of them. And the reason I say this is because it becomes really important as we go through this. We were bothered with the thought that faith and dependence upon a power beyond ourselves was somewhat weak. Yeah, I totally taught my kids that self-reliance is the way to go. The more you know, the more you're worth. Why? Because society taught me a belief system that the more money I make, the better status I got, the better I am as a human. So I taught my kids that people of faith or religion were weaker. And it was about self-sufficiency. The foundation of my life was built on self, me. Look what I can do. But it wasn't just because I believed it. Fuck, I was taught it. Just get a good job, Bill. Just watch out for yourself. Just, find the right wife, buy the right house, get this and get that, and you're going to be happy. Never really made me happy. It's a problem. Because society indoctrinates me and helps with the spiritual malady. I'm not here to blame society. A lot of people do just fine with our society. But with me, it didn't work. I was still left behind closed doors looking in the mirror going, dude, you got all this shiny shit and you made all this money and you got all this stuff, but are you really happy? The faulty foundation of my life has been built on self. Our whole Western society in North America builds the foundation of their life on self. I have to tear down this foundation and build upon a new bedrock. The new bedrock and cornerstone will be this idea of God. And through the consistent work of this program, this foundation becomes stronger. But there's more to this foundation than just the idea or the belief. I always say the theory of God or the idea of God will not keep you sober. So some of the old ideas that I'll hold on to, that I won't let go of, and the result is relapse. Well, what do I see with my sponsees? I see I see the idea that they can wrest happiness and satisfaction out of this woman, or out of this job, or out of all of these different things. I need a job, and then I'll do recovery. I need a woman, I need a relationship. I need all these things. And we're talking about old ideas. Unless I learn how to give myself to the simple program, these old ideas are going to keep steering me off the track, and I'm not going to make this number one. I'm going to think that money's number one. In the book it says job or no job, wife or no wife. We simply do not overcome drinking and if we place reliance on people ahead of dependence upon God. Or if I put money ahead of God, I won't overcome drinking. Sometimes people got to be just beaten right down before they get this part. But you don't have to be. You don't have to be. Follow the directions. And then at about 2 years in, I really started to see the program a lot differently. I started to see, holy shit, there's some actual directions for my life here. And it started really clicking for me. And I started really understanding this line, completely giving myself to the simple program. And once I followed the directions, I didn't need to bring the program into my life. The program became my life because it's actually designed for living. And then everything else just kind of fell into place for me. And I see that other people that do that, it falls into place for them. But I see continually over years and years and years of people trying to just fit this program into their life, just trying to fit these things into their life. They end up not staying sober because they're not completely giving themselves to the simple program, which I think is really important if you're the real deal alcoholic. Because if we don't learn how to grasp and develop this manner of living, then we're gonna lie to ourselves, because honesty is the first principle. And sometimes we'll bullshit ourselves, just like the drink. We'll bullshit ourselves to the drink, but we'll bullshit ourselves in many other areas. Rationalization is my arch enemy. It tells me that in the book, and I believe that to be fundamentally true. I can justify and rationalize the most errant nonsense to suit anything I fucking want. So I got to be really careful, and I start learning how to grasp and develop this manner of living, which demands rigorous honesty. And rigorous doesn't mean I go at this and sweat. It means I do this accurately. Rigorous means accurate. Through the inventories, through talking with my sponsor, I get accurate. Through meditation, I get some more accuracy, and I start seeing the truth of these things. And it's never about intention, right? We talk about intention. If I live my life with the best of intention, I'm usually probably stepping on the toes of my fellows still. I got to really understand rigorous honesty, and this kind of comes as you stay. It doesn't happen in your first year. Accurate honesty doesn't come right away. It only comes from a willingness to want to grow and get better. So as long as I have a willingness, okay, and get this contact, as soon as I admit the possible existence of this creative intelligence, God, universal, underlying the totality of things, I begin to be possessed. The beginning of this starts, of a new sense of power that I never had before, and direction. I start to get pushed in new directions. Provided what? Provided I took other simple steps. This doesn't just happen because I want it to. Through the action of this program, this is a promise. I can get a new direction. I can feel something different. I get a new power, but I got to follow the directions. I take these simple steps. When you're awake enough in your own life, you start to see, okay, if you got a sponsor that's working this, they're going to go, you know what? God fucking has opened the window for you, and he's given you the opportunity through circumstances to really fucking dig in and do this. But most people don't really see that way. And then they won't do the work, and they end up getting drunk. And it's really important to get to work in this. And we're not talking about a theoretical relationship, the idea of God, a prayer here and a prayer there, and yeah, I do believe in something. We're talking about practical, pragmatic action that allows us to connect with this thing. And a lot of this thing that's maybe out there, it's actually in here too. What happens? I start cutting through all the shit. I start getting into that untapped inner resource. I start getting to the heart. What happens? I can live. I can give. I can feel. And I can guide my life with this untapped inner resource now. But it's blocked. And it takes a lot of broken bits. It takes a lot of broken stems. It takes a lot of fearless looking. It takes some fucking darkness. How dark it is before the dawn. It doesn't come easy. If it was easy, everyone would stay sober. Everyone would do this shit. You gotta really want to fucking do this. His alcoholic problem, the alcohol part of his problem was taken away that very day, that very night years ago. It disappeared. Except for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink has never returned. Why? Because Bill turned his will and his life over. The fucking drink problem was taken away that very night years ago. Except for a few brief moments of temptation, the drink has never returned. Why? Because he doesn't need it. He doesn't need to white knuckle, because he turns all the rest of his life, he focuses on spiritual malady. The guys who don't seek the spiritual solution, they get drunk. And if you only seek a spiritual solution for a little while, then you get drunk. God has to work in and through us 24 hours a day or we perish, the book says. And let's take this a different way. Fuck the substance, okay? Once you're clear to the substance, then the real issue starts coming into effect here. The selfish, self-centered nature. The real problem here is me. Because more reveals itself. And God's going to keep bubbling things up where you're broken and what you need to work on. But you got to stay sober for that. You got to stay willing to work with him. You got to stay willing to have God-centered 12-step pillars to talk to. Because I can't always see my own self from my own self. You can't see the problem with the problem. It's really important to fucking rely on God-centered 12-stepped people who really give a shit about your life. Because if they understand where you're at, they can tell you the truth. And although your pride and your ego and all this shit may not like the truth, it's part of the fact-finding mission to discover who I am. God's not a theory and the book's not a theory. It's a set of clear-cut directions. And when we follow the directions, it works. It's like when you rebuild a motor, okay? You take a motor, you rebuild it, you follow exact directions out of the Chilton Auto Manual, and you get a motor that works, that lasts for fucking years, forever. But if you build this motor and you don't follow directions and you just do it the way you think it's supposed to be done, and you're left with all these parts, maybe it runs for a while. Maybe it sputters, but eventually it's gonna blow up. And that's why I'm a big fan of the directions. First line, how it works. What it actually should say is, rarely have we seen a person follow our directions. Rarely have we seen a person follow our path. That's what it should say. Because rarely do we actually see a person follow these directions. But for the newcomer who doesn't understand their true predicament, I think the steps in the meeting to be talked about as per the big book are really, really important. Because that's not the fucking issue here. I don't know how to live, and I'm selfish, and I fucking do certain things in my life, and I cause myself a lot of spiritual sickness. And society at large causes me a lot of spiritual sickness. But when I start getting good on the inside through living the principles, following the direction most importantly, because through the directions, the principle's always the result. And through this spiritual principled program, at the end of this is a relationship with God.